Hi everyone, this is another extra video that I wanted to put out today. I wanted to sort of talk about something that I was tweeting about today with regards to the media. Again, I've been going on about it for a while, about the negativity caused by the media towards Arsenal and no other team. And I listened to a podcast today, as I do, and it was the Totally Football Show, and I wasn't picking on them particularly. I do like that podcast, but again, they were going through a preview about the Premier League, and what they did, yes, it wasn't the biggest sin I've come across. I've put a lot more out there on Twitter, but very, mean, I suppose, is the word, with their assessment of Arsenal, and the fact that we signed Pepe, one of the most sought after young stars in Europe for the last year, and we got in ahead of a lot of other teams, and the fact that he actually left a Champions League team to come to us as well, and chose us above other Champions League clubs, it says an awful lot, and it's a big signing for Arsenal, very exciting signing for Arsenal, but not just our club either, for the Premier League as a whole, bringing him to England. So I thought that sort of signing, it does warrant a lot more press, I think, than glossing over it, saying that we have got a good forward line, but not really talking about Pepe at all. And then go on to talk about Spurs and just sort of celebrate the signing of Ndombele, who, for whatever good player he is, he's not going to be a transformative player for Spurs in the same way that Pepe could be for Arsenal. But instead, it's all negativity for Arsenal. Oh, we've got an absolute rubbish defence. So, according to a lot of pundits, we're going to be really struggling to even stay in the top six, which I think is an absolute joke. I mean, with the team that we've got now, without potentially signing Upamecano or Tierney as well, then we are still going to be challenging for the top four, because we're stronger than we were last season. Yes, we've lost Koscielny, but we are going to be having Holding back very soon. I think he's ahead of schedule. Played for the under-23s a couple of days ago, so he's not going to be too far off. And I'm sure that before we get Bellerin back, which will be probably towards the middle end of next month, we can get through with Ainsley Maitland-Niles at right back, Holding and Socrates in the centre of defence. And in the meantime, before Holding comes back, we've got Chambers, who's looked, he's bearing in mind he spent all last season playing in midfield. We can't just go by his performances in pre-season, but I think he's been pretty steady in pre-season. He has made some, a few sort of misjudgments here and there, yes, of course, but it's pre-season, so I'm sure Chambers is not going to be shitting the bed alongside Socrates in the early parts of the season. So I just can't understand. I mean, the negativity and the headlines coming out that we've all seen, and I've reposted a few on Twitter with regards to our offers that we made for Zaha, for example. Skint Arsenal offer peanuts for Zaha, and we offer to pay in 100 instalments, that sort of thing. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but it basically is words to that effect. And no other team gets that, and no other team, again, in the whole of England. Can anyone please email me on from Dial Square to Where @gmail.com. If you can tell me one other team that has their supposed transfer budget bandied around and mocked in the press. There isn't any. And obviously, as it's turned out, it's an absolute load of rubbish anyway, although we probably haven't spent more than about 45 million out up front in cash. But even so, the way it's always reported, as we all know, is the fact that we have only got £45 million to spend in total, blah blah blah, and it's just promoted in a negative way. So I tweeted about it this morning, and I mentioned the Totally Football show in the tweet, and it's got a, well, I haven't actually checked it since about lunchtime, so, but up until lunchtime when I last looked at Twitter, it had quite a big thread already sort of developing, and a couple of the people from the Totally Football show actually commented on it as well, saying that they were actually quite pleasant towards Arsenal, which, and like I said, I wasn't. It's just one of those triggers, you know, that you have from time to time, which makes you sort of a bit angry, whereby Spurs, who can absolutely do no wrong in the media, they get praised non-stop, even though they've achieved precisely nothing. And for all that Pochettino has done for that club and what they haven't achieved, we were getting roundly mocked for years under Arsene Wenger for getting top 4 with really poor squads as well, for quite a few seasons. He still achieved top 4. I think it was 17-18 seasons on the trot that he got top 4. But we got roundly mocked, saying that we considered it a trophy. But in amongst all that time, we were winning trophies as well. We've been Premier League champions several times, FA Cup champions several times, etc. And we actually got to the Champions League final ourselves, of course, before Spurs did. But because Pochettino has done that with a very little budget, he's getting praised like no other, like he's the best manager in the world. I'm not saying he's a poor manager, you know, don't get me wrong, but he's not a poor manager, clearly. But for what he's done, times that by about 10 for what Wenger achieved, with very, very tight purse strings as well, and we don't get anywhere near that sort of praise by the media. So it's very, very annoying. And like I said, have a look back on my timeline to have a look at all the things that I've reposted about the media going past, and you'll see exactly what I mean. I'm sure a lot of you know what I'm talking about anyway. The Game podcast today as well, listen to that. Again, they think that our top 6 status is going to be under threat. But everyone, pretty much every media outlet that you will listen to or read, have Spurs nailed on as finishing 3rd again. The top 2, everyone is saying that it's going to be Liverpool and Man United, and Man City, I beg your pardon. I can understand that, but I don't think that Liverpool are specifically nailed on to be the 2nd best team in the country this year. It might well be, and I'm not going to say that they're not going to achieve that. I'd be stupid to do that, but I don't think it's cut and dried. It'd be absolutely incredible if both them and Man City are going to get the same level of points as they did last year, with the other teams around them strengthening as well. And I've said this before, but I think a hell of a lot clicked for Liverpool last season, and I can't help thinking it's just one of those years where everything just went right for them, and I can't see it happening again. I think not going to go through a whole season only losing one game again. I just can't see that happening. And we are in a position whereby, quite conceivably, going to be much better off points-wise than we were last year. I don't think we're going to lose as many stupid games as we did last year. I don't think we're going to draw as many stupid games as we did last year either. And it will only get better, of course, if we do strengthen the defence. And if we did strengthen the defence, then we're not going to have a squad that is far behind Liverpool's. Well, if at all, in lots of cases. Liverpool's midfield work well as a unit and like a machine, but the individuals that they have aren't particularly special, in my opinion. They've still got obviously Milner, Jordan Henderson, Wijnaldum, who, you know, they're all decent players, but they're not world-class, amazing individuals, are they? And I think with the midfield that we've got now, much more mobile and direct and young and energetic and progressive and forward-thinking, and our front three, of course, not even considering the youngsters that we've got coming through that are very dynamic and exciting as well, then if we did strengthen our defence, then there's absolutely no way that we are going to be too far away from clubs like that. Now, the big difference is, of course, the managers. Now, Jurgen Klopp, whatever you think of him as a person, he's a fantastic manager, and I really like him. I like the way he comes across in press conferences. I like the way he sets his teams out, and that's why they've achieved what they've achieved, of course, over the last couple of years in their progression. The jury's still out on Emery for me, and I think the best way that he can attack this season, Emery, is really just be brave and let the players express themselves in forward positions, make the defenders defend. He wants the ball played out from the back, which is understandable, but once the defenders have played the ball out from back, stay in defence and defend first and foremost. Pass it to these great new midfielders that we've got, like Ceballos and Willock and Guendouzi, all exciting players, and just let them progress the ball, get it forward to the attackers. He needs to be brave and just go for it this season, because if he keeps resorting back to the back three and playing sort of dull football that we had for large portions of last season, and still ends up with the same result, then he's not going to do his own reputation any good whatsoever, and we're going to end up no better off. Whereas if he sticks to a solid team, once the end of the transfer window comes and we know what defence we've got to play with, now he should stick to a solid foundation in the team and play a good brand of attacking, expressive football. And if he is brave and does that, then who knows what we could achieve. Now, the 24 point gap that we had between ourselves and Liverpool could quite easily be overcome. Now, that sounds stupid, but Liverpool did it last season. They were 25 points behind Man City. They finished at just a point off. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be as transformative as that. However, like I said earlier, I don't think that Liverpool are going to be achieving 97 points again. Now, they could quite conceivably, you know, finish maybe 10 points off that, and that will still be considered a fantastic season, and under any circumstances finishing on 87 points. But if they did get to that level, finish off on the 87 point mark, around that sort of figure, that means that we would be 15 points off from what we finished on last season, and that's 5 wins. 5 wins, that's all. And I honestly, no one can tell me that there weren't 5 games last season that we shouldn't have won. No one can convince me of that. And that doesn't include draws that we could have converted to wins as well. So if they drop 10 points, we gain another 15. It's not going to be beyond the realms of possibility, is it? So Spurs have gradually declined points-wise over the last 2 seasons. There's nothing they've done so far that makes me think that they're not going to carry on in that vein. Losing 20 games last season just shows you how Spursy Spurs are. And they finished in 3rd position, not because of what they did, but because ourselves, Chelsea, Man United all shit the bed even worse than they did at the end of the season, and that's it. They got there by default of the rest of us, unfortunately, and I don't think that's going to happen again this coming season. And they've had so many seasons now where they've had a settled squad. This season, again, they've only added 1 player, and they've had too many players there for too many years. And I can't remember who it was that said the famous line, if you carry on doing the same thing, you'll get the same results. And that's what Spurs are doing. They've had too many players there for too long, and it's gone a bit stale. So for me, they are there for the taking, and I cannot understand why the media are all putting them down as finishing 3rd, nailed on. Again, I really can't. So that's why I tweeted out what I did earlier. It's more in frustration as an overall situation of the media rather than that specific podcast. But it's going on, and everyone's saying the same, and it gets me very, very frustrated. Anyway, I'll be back with a regular pod before you know it. Have a good day. Bye bye.